Hello, everybody. We have a very special guest now at IndieCast
स्पेशल
today.
गेस्ट तो नहीं हूँ भाई, बहुत बिजी हो गया
We
था,
have a
काम
very
बहुत चल
special
रहा है.
entry who has
स्पेशल
become
एंट्री हरप्रीत चल.
who has become a Eid ka chand. But like I said on the last
थोड़ा सा दूर
episode,
करके बात करिए.
like I said on the last episode, we were hoping to have Jay back as soon as possible, and now Jay is back. Work and a lot of other commitments were keeping him busy, but we are happy to have him back. And in a very important direction the world order is taking, it would have been unwise to have this conversation without him. So the recent political events have seen, for example, the recent tensions that are going on domestically in Iran. We have seen some escalations even in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which goes on, and we have seen obviously the arrest of Maduro at Venezuela. So let's speak about a lot of these issues. Jay, let's get your opening thoughts.
भाई एक बात मैं क्लियर कर देता
Welcome
हूँ
back.
कि हाँ, एक बात मैं क्लियर कर देता हूँ कि अमेरिकन इंटरवेंशन इन लैटिन अमेरिका इज़ अगेन नॉट अ न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट. इट्स बिन हैपनिंग फॉर अ वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम. एंड ऐसा है कि निकारागुआ में हुआ और ग्रेनाडा में हुआ.
बे ऑफ पिग्स इन्वेजन
बे
भी तो हुआ था.
बे ऑफ पिग्स इन्वेजन बहुत सारी जगहों पे उन्होंने इन्वेड करा है. लाइक यू नो, मोस्ट ऑफ दीज केसेस देयर वाज अ regime that they wanted to change. एंड उस regime को चेंज करने के लिए they decided that military intervention is the best option.
Also because it's so deeply tied to US politics, the fact that there is a anxiety about a lot of narco. But yeah, so जैसे मैं तो ये कह रहा था कि a lot of this anxiety comes from this narco terror sort of anxiety that the Americans have, which in some ways is understandable also, because it is historically true that a lot of cocaine and now fentanyl has flown into the United States from a lot of these countries. So मुझे in a sense यूएस इंटरवेंशनिज्म समझ भी आता है, बट आई डू थिंक दैट जैसे ये बड़ा एक्सट्रीम लगा और बहुत लोगों को एक्सट्रीम लगा द अरेस्ट ऑफ मडूरो एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, एंड इट इज सिग्नलिंग सम काइंड ऑफ इरोजन ऑफ द एग्जिस्टिंग वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर. जय, व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
uh,
मतलब एक वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर जो एग्जिस्ट करता था जहाँ पे ये कंसेप्चुअलाइज नहीं हो सकता था टिल लाइक 10-15 years ago.
नहीं, आई वुड डिसएग्री. द रीजन व्हाई आई सेड कि ये सब चीज़ें हमेशा से होती भी आ रही हैं, आई फील ये एक स्टेटस को बनाने का तरीका है.
यार इंटरवेंशनिज्म इज वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम
Yeah.
लिफ्टिंग सम कंट्रीज प्रेसिडेंट आउट. यू नो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग? लाइक
भाई निकारागुआ में तो यही हुआ था ना. निकारागुआ में सेम चीज़ हुई थी और सेम लाइंस पे हुई थी. बोला था कि ये बंदा ड्रग्स बेचता है, ड्रग किंग पे, इवन दो CIA का बंदा था. तो निकारागुआ में तो यही चीज़ हुई थी.
राइट.
एंड उसमें तो ज़्यादा अमेरिकन सोल्जर्स मरे थे भाई, और ज़्यादा रेजिस्टेंस हुआ था. यहाँ पे तो लगता है मडूरो बिल्कुल CIA वगैरह के साथ तो उसकी बिल्कुल एक टेलीफोन
Setting
लाइन
the,
सेटिंग
there is
हो
a
गई.
line of thought that actually believes that Maduro gave himself in voluntarily for a lot of domestic tension, a lot of he was clearly not a very popular leader, so there was always that scope of a potential uprising against him. So if you cut a deal with the CIA and you fly to an American prison, at least you won't die.
पनामा में भी तो
Yeah.
इन्होंने इंटरवीन करा है.
हाँ.
तो देयर वर बनाना वॉर्स ऑफ कोर्स, जहाँ पे उन्होंने हॉन्डुरस में इतनी बार इंटरवीन करा. देन देयर ऑफ कोर्स द निकारागुआ का एग्जांपल, देन द एग्जांपल ऑफ पनामा
Yeah.
जस्ट गिव, एंड देन वेनेजुएला फाइनली.
Yeah. In fact, speaking of a lot of new ideas of American intervention that are bothering people, they might not actually be that new. Even in the 1950s, the Americans had quietly offered to buy Greenland once before. So even this is not a very new idea. आज के दिन में मुझे लगता है जैसे Venezuela and Greenland also have one thing in common, which is why people use these two examples to signal that American imperialism is back, that or imperialism anywhere in the world is back, that these two places are very very rich in critical
इतनी
minerals.
फनी चीज़ बताओ. अभी
क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स की प्रेजेंस बहुत है, वो मेन फैक्टर है
और
एक्चुअली.
उन्होंने अभी इतनी फनी चीज़ बोली. ट्रम्प बोलता है कि हमें हमें ग्रीनलैंड चाहिए क्योंकि इफ़ वी डोंट गेट ग्रीनलैंड, चाइना एंड रशिया विल बिकम आवर नेबर्स. दैट इज सच अ जो इनकरेक्ट एनालिसिस ऑफ थिंग्स. बिकॉज अगर तू अलास्का को देखेगा ना, अलास्का एंड रशिया का जो सबसे ईस्टर्न मोस्ट टिप है, देर ऑलरेडी
They're very close.
pointing at each other. So
Yeah.
you are already neighbors with Russia. So,
Yeah, so
ये कहना बहुत ही गलत है.
at the closest Russians and Americans are I think a few kilometers away.
Yes.
Through Alaska. And I mean after all in 1897 I think, or somewhere in the 1880s, or Alaska was bought from the Russians.
From the Russians.
But it has proven to be a strategic advantage for the Americans, and I do think that अपने sphere में they will try to keep dominating it. There is a huge strategic advantage that will come to them by acquiring Greenland. There is no doubt about it. And because in today's day, strategic advantages are linked to your access to critical minerals, Greenland is very mineral rich. It is huge in terms of the deposits it has, and most of it is, permafrost, like always
Yeah.
frosted. It's very icy, and a lot of the minerals are hidden deep in like a lot of those reserves. So it would be a worthy expedition for any country, honestly. But the Danes aren't very happy with this. So obviously, for them, they say that if any kind of pressure comes from the US to keep pressurizing the takeover of Greenland, for them, NATO would stop existing. That's their view, which is a very extreme thing to say because European security is based off of
And
NATO.
Romanians सबने ये बोलना शुरू कर दिया कि we'll take over the American military bases and all these areas of little areas of influence or spheres of influence that America had created in Europe after the Second World War. तो एक तरीके से हाँ वो जो Second World War के बाद की जो स्टेबल दुनिया हमने देखी थी पिछले 70-75 सालों की वो बिल्कुल हमारे सामने नस्त नाबूद होते हुए नजर आ रही है.
Yeah, there's a very interesting movie on Netflix, House of Dynamite. It's Catherine Bigelow's latest. That movie actually signals something very important. In 2020s, I assert that nuclear anxiety is the highest it has ever been since the Cuban Missile Crisis. तो मैं fully तो नहीं मानता कि Second World War के बाद दुनिया stabilize हो गई पूरी तरह, because then
True.
we had the
True.
Soviet and American arms race.
True.
What I think we risk doing now is that we have splintered the world order further. Ki okay, the Chinese camp is different, the Russians are different, the Americans are different, and now we all have a separate arms race going on.
पता है,
So this could be like an arms race to the bottom, क्योंकि अब आपने एक तरह से इंसेंटिवाइज कर दिया न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स होना. वी ऑल नो दैट मे बी द इन्वेजन ऑफ यूक्रेन वुड नॉट हैव बीन दैट इंटेंस इफ द यूक्रेनियंस स्टिल हैड देयर न्यूक्स. So that in a way incentivizes nuclear warhead ownership, right? Sorry, you were saying something.
नहीं सही बात है. और इस पूरे नज़रिए में इंडिया की जो फॉरेन पॉलिसी है वो बेसिकली हमें इस पैगाम पर ले आती है जहाँ पे हमें लगता है कि हम सबके गुड बुक्स में रहना चाहते हैं. वी डोंट वांट टू टेक एनी अदर कैंप विच गिव्स अस सम लेवल्स ऑफ स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी. इंडिया इज़ लाइक दैट वन किड जो हर स्कूल ग्रुप और हर स्कूल ग्रुप की पार्टीज में दिखता था दिल्ली में. तेरे को पता है ना, एक बंदा होता था जो इस पर्टिकुलर स्कूल की पार्टीज में भी दिख जाता था, दूसरी स्कूल की पार्टीज में भी दिख जाता था. तो दैट्स व्हाट इंडियाज फॉरेन पॉलिसी इज राइट नाउ. कभी चाइना के साथ भी अच्छे होने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, कभी यूएस के साथ भी अच्छे होने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, रशिया के साथ तो हमेशा से अच्छे थे ही. तो
Or I think because this sort of multipolar world is a little unforgiving today, that people are beginning to see through it a little bit, and which is why I think this is to the discredit of our foreign policy architecture, that we have not been able to keep up with the growing needs of the 21st century. In today's day, I feel like a lot of other South Asian countries have a much better relationship with the Western world. Or I'm not saying that that's a success of your foreign policy, but basically आपका foreign policy का agenda तो काम निकलवाना
But
होता है ना.
again-
I just want to say that we can't be non-aligned to the point that it's a disadvantage. That our non-alignment eventually attracts tariffs
but
from
us-
one side, yet no support from the other. We are basically discredited or sometimes blamed for sponsoring the Russian war in Ukraine. So we get a lot of tariffs from the Americans for sponsoring the Russians, but we get no real support from the Russians either.
Or the Chinese.
This is in fact a failure of our foreign policy architecture. उसको acknowledge करने में कोई बुरी बात नहीं है. We can improve it. We need to upgrade our technical bureaucracy anyway. Sorry, Jay.
बट मेरा ये भी मानना है कि अगर once you start becoming a power like India, which is now the fourth biggest economy in the world, and you have like a very big population, you're also a nuclear power, you have one of the biggest military forces in the country, and when you saw the absolute annihilation of another nuclear powered country's military infrastructure during the 2-3 day long confrontation, then I think you're in a position to say ठीक है, अब क्या है कि अब हम लोग धीरे धीरे इतने पावरफुल बनते जा रहे हैं कि हमें अब कहीं पे ये दिखाने की ज़रूरत नहीं कि हम इस पर्टिकुलर कैंप को जाके उनके सब सामने भीख मांगे या इस पर्टिकुलर कैंप पे भीख मांगे। हमें बेसिकली ऐसा, दिस इज़ वेयर आई फील दैट दिस इज़ व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू एस्टैब्लिश कि हम एक ऐसी दुनिया बनाना चाहते हैं अपने लिए जहाँ पे हमारे बगैर कोई आगे काम ना हो सके। इवन दो ट्रम्प अभी क्या कहते हैं टैरिफ्स वगैरह लगाने की कोशिश करेगा और हमें रशिया से ज़्यादा कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है, बट आई डोंट थिंक दैट इज़ अफेक्टिंग अस दैट मच।
No, I will push back on that a little bit. Tariffs are obviously affecting anybody in the export import business, right? And our economies are tied intimately.
एब्सोल्युटली, वो
So,
मैंने डिनाई नहीं
so
करा, बट
if the
लॉन्ग टर्म में देख।
हाँ, long term में बात करते हैं, if the economic order in the world fractures a little bit, we will be uh, very badly hit because a lot of our corporate sector and the entire economy outside of government and related areas is fully American companies. And
ट्रू।
if that is not sustained, then that that runs the risk of fracturing our economic stability in India also. I'll just add to this, because our foreign policy is deeply tied to our economic policy, and we want to have an independent, assertive position, which I would love. I'm a patriotic Indian. We need to have proportionate economic reforms that match up our ambition.
ट्रू।
हमारा ambition बहुत ज़्यादा है, लेकिन हमारे domestic economic reforms अभी भी बहुत barriers create करते हैं foreign investors
बिल्कुल।
को. So at some level, your adversary, even in economics, is a thinking adversary. In economics, politics, they're seeing that India is not really picking sides in foreign policy. And we always like to say ki, we have a very big market, so before you make enemies with India, you think about that. But we are also not keeping up with proportionate
ट्रू,
economic
आई एग्री।
reforms that could help foreign investors come in. वो कहते हैं कि या ना तो ये साइड लेते हैं, ना ही हम इनके देश में बिजनेस
मगर
करने
ये भी
देते
ये
हैं.
भी ये इस अब टू पुश बैक टू दैट,
Yeah.
अब तो इंडिया का जो डोमेस्टिक पॉलिटिक्स का सिनेरियो देख ले। हमारी ऑपोजिशन ऐसी है, हमारे लोग ऐसे हैं कि तुम कुछ भी यहाँ पे सेटअप करने की कोशिश करो तो उस पर हमारा जो डोमेस्टिक पॉलिटिक्स का सिचुएशन है वो ऑटोमेटिकली हज़ार बैरियर्स क्रिएट कर देता है। तो अगर फार्म लॉज लाने के लिए कोशिश करेगा, फार्म रिफॉर्म्स लाने की कोशिश करेगा, उसके हज़ार बैरियर आ जाएंगे। तो भाई कुछ भी एक्सपेरिमेंट करने की कोशिश करेगा, उसको हज़ार बैरियर आ जाएंगे। कोई भी मेजर प्रोजेक्ट इस्टेब्लिश करने की कोशिश करेगा, वहाँ पे भाई फार लेफ्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आ जाएंगी जो कि अमेरिकन थिंक टैंक्स के थ्रू आर्टिकल छपवाएंगी कि कैसे इंडिया की पॉलिसीज इज एंटी ट्राइबल, एंटी दलित, एंटी माइनॉरिटी। तो हमारे ऊपर वहाँ से भी तो बहुत प्रेशर पड़ता है।
ब्रो एब्सोल्युटली, मगर मुझे ये ज़रूर लगता है कि a lot of it is just noise you have to work through.
Fair enough.
Because if you have to make the hard call or a bold reform in an economy, you cannot be totally bound by what your critics are saying, what the think tanks are saying, or what the media is saying. I'm also saying this because China is a major China is a major foreign policy player, primarily because it is a country that was bold enough to create domestic economic reforms. It is a country that was bold enough to fire
It is
most of its bureaucracy
it's a country
overnight.
which was bold enough to almost disappear millions of its own people through, quote unquote, cultural revolution.
यार
So it
वो
has a lot of political will that it can implement,
नहीं
which
देख,
Indians just don't have.
you're talking about a dark phase of their history, but I'm saying that it is a major power
I know,
because of economic
I know,
reforms.
but वो इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स भी वो इसीलिए कर पाए ना क्योंकि they were able to control their domestic politics.
Yeah, absolutely.
वहाँ पे तुमने इतने सारे एथनिक ग्रुप्स को दबा दिया, हैन चाइनीज को डोमिनेट कर दिया। यहाँ पे तो किसी भी एथनिक ग्रुप को या किसी भी कास्ट कम्युनिटी को डोमिनेट करके दिखा। यहाँ पे तो लैंग्वेज बैरियर्स हैं, कास्ट बैरियर्स हैं। यहाँ पे तुम वैसे रिफॉर्म्स कर ही नहीं सकते हो क्योंकि तुम्हारे पास वो पॉलिटिकल माइट आ ही नहीं सकता है जैसे चाइना में है।
Hani, that is a fair. Then that you're bringing me back to my original point. Then we have to be realistic about our
Exactly.
goals. That if we cannot have those kind of economic reforms internally, then we must start at the very least allowing more competition and more free market kind of outcomes in India.
Fair
We
enough.
still don't have. We still don't have the economic might that we claim to have. That is one real limitation. Our statistics and our GDP figures and our inflation figures are also sometimes they're not very encouraging. So my view is that statistics also is not giving a clear picture, which to defend the government people really come and say that GDP has been the highest and all of that. But my point is that the trickle down is also not happening. If it was happening, India would have become a very attractive destination to invest in, which we haven't. There is no fault in admitting that. Then you move forward with the assumption that we have some changes to make, we have things to improve. Then maybe, in foreign policy terms, we can become a more relevant player than we are today.
Yeah, I agree. And anyway, so now we can segue to Iran. What is happening in Iran right now? Again, bad economics and bad economic policies. It has led to a point where there is absolutely no trust in the Islamic regime, and because of all the sanctions and all the isolation, there is not much that can be done. And the Islamic regime has responded with an iron fist, and they're doing everything in their capacity to come down heavily on these protesters. To me, it smells of CIA, a lot of it.
Absolutely.
And
CIA and Mossad.
yeah, so CIA and Mossad, and after the battering that the Iranians received at the hands of the Israelis, no doubt they responded well, but the Israelis had an upper hand. And after the battering that they received from the Israelis, a lot of their institutions were shaken to the core, and a lot of rethinking would have been done in in Tehran, and now it has reached a point where nobody respects the Khomeinis anymore. Nobody respects the Imams anymore. Like quote unquote, the Western vices and sins are all in open now, and
Yeah,
I don't think that I've seen such levels of protests in that region in a long time.
I think that you will take a lot of time to establish another stable player if a wide uprising happens. In my view, it happens where a sort of capable leader is at the center of that uprising. I think that to sort of establish a new sort of modern inheritor of the Shah regime by overthrowing the Khamenei, sorry, you would need a leader who has that kind of popular support. I don't think anyone in Iran today has that popular support to create a revolution. I do think that the CIA and the Mossad and all those organizations, they're trying their best, but I do think that there's nobody here who can match the capability required to head the country from this, this revolutionary wave. This Pahlavi fellow hasn't stayed in Iran for the longest time. He has very little support domestically. See, Iranians can protest against their government without necessarily wanting to overthrow it also. There is a very limited view through which Western media and even us, we don't fully understand Iran uh, and its complexities. So for Americans, it's also, oh, people are protesting against the Khomeinis, they want to go back to their Persian identity. But I feel like it could also be a lot more. This is also protest against economic inaction,
Exactly.
and it's also protest against corruption. It's also protest against the rigidity in
And
implementation of
imagine,
Islamic law. I just want to
yeah.
finish by saying
Mm.
that to create a revolution, which a lot of Western media are very likely to call it, you have to first create a leader who is capable of leading it, and it's not centered around a figure right now. I don't think this Pahlavi fellow has that
No, he
capability.
doesn't. He doesn't.
Yeah.
And the whole premise of this is flawed in its core, because here you're trying to topple an Islamic regime by re-establishing a monarch. So
Yeah.
where is the democracy here?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? So I think the
Yeah.
movement in itself is very shallow,
Mm.
and even though it might seem extremely how should I put this, very colorful and motivating, but it's gonna fly off, because I feel the Islamic regime of Iran is very strong, and they were basically preparing for a day like this.
Yeah,
And the IRGC is a very strong
and the
organization.
IRGC has
Mm.
a lot of Russian support,
Yes.
which is a country that, despite everything, has stood very strong in Ukraine. It's challenging the world
And
order,
yes, and
and the world is churning. So, the world order is shifting a little bit. So, having Russian support means quite a lot in
but
today's day.
problem ये है ना कि हमें, we also thought the same thing about Syria, and the Syrian regime just fell so quickly. So we cannot count we cannot see. I agree with your point, and I was the one who said ki it is very difficult to topple the Islamic regime. But the thing is that you never know. There
Yeah.
could be a lot of things that don't meet our eyes.
Yeah,
And
would you argue that Bashar al-Assad was on a weaker foot though at the time?
yes, he was, because Hezbollah was totally decimated. Once
Yeah,
Hezbollah was decimated, they did not have their Western allies.
yeah.
And after not having their Western allies, and again being on an economic weaker front because of the isolation, they weren't being able to pay the military wages. And thus, the CIA backed the groups in the northern parts, which basically became the groups led by Al Shara, were able to totally run over the Syrian regime because they just did not have the motivation to defend the regime
Yeah, yeah.
anymore. And the thing is that the problem there was that these regime, the Bashar al-Assad's regime and the forces were mostly dominated. Were dominated by Shias, the Alawites, which are essentially only 15 to 20% of the population, and if you include the Assyrian Christians and the Druze as well, so we're talking 25% of the population
Yeah, and
was backing.
he's a minority Shiite leader of a Sunni country, which
Exactly.
is
So
a
essentially,
rare position to be in.
he was kind of like he was the Shia version of
Saddam
Saddam
Hussein,
Hussein.
yeah. Where
So
Saddam, and also Iraq has almost a near 45-55, so it's a near
65
split,
35,
yeah.
65
But
35.
okay, so the share is still larger in
In Syria.
Iraq than it is in
No, no,
Syria.
no. Syria mein the
Yeah.
Sunnis are the Sunni share is bigger than.
Yeah, I know what
Yeah.
I'm saying is but the split is closer in Iraq. 35% is
Yes,
still a
yes,
bigger
exactly,
minority.
exactly. That's
Is
why.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but again, if you include the other various disparate Christian
Yeah.
groups and other groups,
Which
it is
is what
almost
happened after
30% of the population was behind
Yeah, which is
Bashar
what
al-Assad.
happened after the US intervention in Iraq, that all the translators and the interpreters and the anti-Ba'athist movement was all Shiites, right? And that's a lot of the Ba'athist generals, they were killed by a lot of these Shia
Yes,
militias
of
which were
course.
US backed or whatever. So I think, like I said, West Asia is very complicated. Again, one of the things that I find very frustrating about our foreign policy architecture is that we aren't as involved in West Asia as we should
Yeah.
be. Our Western adversaries does a better job of that, in my
But
view.
the Western adversary also has the card of the religion, right? So you can always say, polytheists, these guys
Yeah,
pray
but
to.
Jeb, this is one thing that I also disagree with again, because Islam
नहीं नहीं
is
नहीं
not a
the
union.
it is to a very large extent
No,
तो
no, no.
नहीं नहीं नहीं
It
I
falls flat fully.
नहीं 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 I don't agree because I feel अगर तू इस्लाम के नाम पे किसी को बोलेगा तो वो all that in the Muslim countries it will always have like your ears would be pointed first, so they will always have a softer side, softer corner in their heart for Pakistan.
ये मुझे थोड़ा सा लेजी एक्सप्लेनेशन
नहीं
लगती है,
मुझे नहीं
बिकॉज
लगता.
नहीं, आई थिंक बिकॉज इंडिया हैज ऑल्सो ट्राइड टू यूज दिस इन आवर फॉरेन पॉलिसी a little bit, that we have a large Muslim population over here as well, and that's reason enough to
200
maintain good relations with
2050 में
West
कह रहे हैं
Asia.
सबसे ज्यादा मुसलमान इंडिया में ही होंगे पूरी
हाँ,
दुनिया में.
बट मुझे फिर उसके बाद ये भी लगता है कि आप अपना कैंप नहीं डिसाइड कर पाते हैं. दैट इज आवर मेजर प्रॉब्लम इन आवर फॉरेन पॉलिसी आर्किटेक्चर, एंड वी try to get some good relations with the Gulf, and we don't really allow them to warm up to us to a point. We try to maintain good relations with Iran, then we are not able to warm up to them also. So कहीं ना कहीं हमारी limitations show करती हैं.
बिल्कुल करती हैं.
So मैं ये भी कह रहा हूँ कि Pakistan enjoys support from the Gulf countries and a lot of the Muslim world,
उसका कारण
not
ही
because it's Muslim, but because it is a proxy state. The Muslim world is not one
Of course,
union.
मैं तो उसका सबसे बड़ा proponent हूँ. मेरे को लगता है the concept of ummah in itself has failed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, मगर मेरा ये भी कहने का मतलब है कि अगर तू इस्लाम के नाम पे लोगों को भावुक करेगा, if you play that emotional card, that will automatically have an advantage, even if you're a vassal state. So being a vassal state while being Muslim is much more advantageous than being a polytheist.
Nah, I don't think कि इस्लाम के नाम पे if people could get united you know, we
मैं
have
यूनाइटेड की बात ही नहीं कर रहा हूँ मैं थोड़ा वो मैं I'm telling you why a theological advantage always plays a role in foreign policy
I
as
mean, if
well.
you look at Iraq in the last 10 years, it was the IRGC fighting the ISIS. It's
Of course.
been, you know, Hezbollah fighting the ISIS sometimes. It's all, you know, Shiites versus Sunnis, sometimes
Druze,
Alawites.
अब
तो
UAE and Saudi Arabia are also fighting in Yemen right now
हाँ,
over resources. So नहीं, I agree, but मैं कह रहा हूँ कि it will always be easier for Pakistan or Bangladesh to get the world, especially the Muslim world, more angry at us.
मुझे ये
Given our
थोड़ा सा
theological
लेजी
background.
थिंकिंग लगती
तेरे को
है.
लगता है
मुझे
but
लगता है ना, अब मुझे लगता है ये एक
तेरा बहुत ही
एक्सक्यूज.
pragmatic है, but मैं इससे disagree करता हूँ.
मुझे लगता है ये व्यू तब आना चाहिए
मैं
ना.
खंडन करती हूँ.
हाँ नहीं, ऐसे मुझे लगता है ना, मुझे लगता है कि आपने बोल दिया कि यार ये ना बड़ा डिफिकल्ट काम है, मैं ये नहीं कर
नहीं,
पाऊंगा.
मैं नहीं बोल रहा
सुन ना, मेरी
डिफिकल्ट
बात
काम है,
सुन.
मैं बस बोल रहा हूँ एडवांटेज है, उसका ये
Let-
मतलब
give-
नहीं हम उसका यूज नहीं कर सकते.
let me finish. If you say that a job is difficult and you are failing at, say, getting the right audience on the foreign policy stage, say for example to condemn Pakistan or to maybe support our efforts against them, first you have to assert that you tried your best in the foreign policy terms. I don't think we are justifying our failures before trying our best. You know, we are not picking camps, we are not aggressively promoting our interests. उसके बाद जब हम लोग बोलते हैं जी ये बड़ा मुश्किल काम है, आफ्टर ऑल तो वो मुस्लिम
That's
देश
true.
है, हम लोग पीछे रह जाते हैं
नहीं
इसमें.
सही बात है, यहाँ
So,
पे agree करता
you
हूँ.
know, India has a very good
But
way,
मैंने मुश्किल
we
नहीं
have a
बोला.
very good way of justifying mediocrity and claiming that as success.
बट वो तो हमारी पूरी कंट्री की सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ही ये रही है ना.
हाँ,
तो
तो
अगर हमारे पूरा स्टेट एपरेटस
बट
देखे वो तो यही
कभी
रहा
ना
है.
कभी तो आपको एक स्पेड को स्पेड बोलना
हाँ
पड़ेगा.
हाँ,
देखो,
मगर मैं कुछ और कहने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. मैं कह रहा हूँ कि एडवांटेज है उसका, ये मतलब नहीं है कि हम उसको टैकल नहीं कर सकते. एंड आई थिंक टू अ वेरी लार्ज एक्सटेंट हमने टैकल भी करा है जहाँ जहाँ हम कर सकते हैं. तो हमारी गल्फ कंट्रीज़ में काफ़ी अच्छे रिलेशन हैं हमारे, लाइक दुबई यूएई वगैरह के साथ अच्छे रिलेशन हैं. कटार के साथ उतना अच्छा नहीं है, लेकिन बट बाकी सारी कंट्रीज़ के साथ भी ठीक ठाक रिलेशन हैं. तो सऊदी अरेबिया के साथ भी आई थिंक वी हैव अ पॉजिटिव रिलेशनशिप. आई डोंट नो, आई फील मेरा पॉइंट कुछ और था. मैं कहने की कोशिश कर रहा था कि थोड़ा एडवांटेज होता है ऑन हैविंग थियोलॉजिकल ग्राउंड, एज
और
सिंपल एज दैट.
अब आई थिंक कहीं ना कहीं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया पे भी ये रियलाइजेशन आ रही है. दैट्स व्हाई यू हैव तालिबान लीडर्स विजिटिंग इंडिया एंड रिसीविंग अ, you know, gun salute from the UP police. So there is some amount of irony to that, but we are trying to counterbalance this area.
Fair enough.
But you know, like I said, global order is churning.
So-
It is beautifully ironic that our real closest ally in South Asia or West Asia today is the Taliban. It's funny, it's hilarious, but it's true.
But to finish my point, the last point I'm going to make, it's with respect to Iran. We were talking about the ethnic distribution and how the fall of the Bashar al-Assad regime happened. In Iran, हमें लगता है कि सारे के सारे फारसी बोलते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. 61% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन इज पर्शियन. द सेकंड बिगेस्ट ग्रुप, the biggest minority of Iran are actually the Azeris, who are Turkic speakers. The president of Iran right now, the second subordinate to the Khamenei is an Azeri guy. So वो एक चीज हो सकता है which can actually bother Iran. The the northwestern tip of Iran, which is close to Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Turkey, that is all Azeri dominated. So, and the thing is that this is where it gets funny, and this is where your first proposition about Muslim countries not being united is the fact that when the Azerbaijanis were basically destroying the Artsakh Armenians, the Iranians supported the Armenians.
Yeah.
They supported the Armenians because they feared that if they start supporting the Azeris, who are from their same religious denomination, Shias, if they started supporting the Azeris, the Azeri region of Iran would also become, independent thing.
See,
So
you're
this is
proving my point.
This is a place where the Americans can actually concentrate. They're like, you know what? Let's start by destabilizing the Azeri areas,
Yeah.
the Turkic areas of Iran, and from that we can go after the whole country.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will rest my.
No, but you've basically proved my point better than I was able to.
Anyway, I rest my case.
Thank you for
guys.
joining
Thank
us.
you guys. And sorry, I'm really excited. I'm doing this after a really long time.
Thank
I
you.
missed it so much. Love you. Mwah!